story today is entitled The King's Magic Drum. There once was an ancient king of Calabar by the name of Ephraim Duke. He was a very rich king, and out of all of his possessions, he had a magic drum. What made this drum so special is because every time the king would beat the drum, it would bring food and drink, as much food and drink as he ever wanted. Well, occasionally the king would throw parties, and he would invite everybody in the kingdom, including animals like the elephant and the zebra and the hippo and the antelope. Well, when he would invite everybody to the party, he would beat his magic drum, and right before their very eyes, there'd be a huge feast. And everybody, including the animals, wanted the king's magic drum, but he never parted with it. Well, one day, one of the king's wives, by the name of Ikor Idam, was bathing her daughter at a spring. And there by the spring was a palm tree. And the tortoise was up in the palm tree, cutting down palm nuts for his lunch. But one of the palm nuts that he was cutting down accidentally fell to the ground. And when it fell to the ground, the little daughter saw it and cried, "Mommy, Mommy!" And the mother looked, and there was the palm nut. So she grabbed the palm nut and gave it to her daughter, and her daughter ate it. Well, the tortoise saw this, and he decided that he was going to tattletale on the little girl for eating his food, and then it would force the king to give the magic drum to him because of what had happened. So he climbed down the palm tree, and he approached the little girl's mother and said, "You know, I climbed all the way up top this tree to get food for me and my family, and what do? You steal it, and you give it to your daughter to eat." Well, I'm telling the king about this because it is not right to steal. It is a crime. Well, the mother of the child said, "I did not steal your palm nut. I thought it had simply fallen to the ground. But if you have a complaint against me and my child, I will take you to the king." So she took the tortoise to the king after she had finished bathing her daughter. And the king started offering the tortoise several different things to compensate him for the lost food. He offered him money, he offered him clothing, he even offered him palm oil. But the tortoise refused every single one of those things. Then finally the king said, "Well, what do you want? I'll give you anything. Just what do you need?" And he pointed to what? The magic drum. This was his chance. And so the king said, "Very well, you may have the drum." But the king never told the tortoise the drum's secret. And the secret was, if the owner of the drum ever walked over a stick in the road or a fallen tree, then the drum's juju would be broken, and the magic would turn all the food bad, and on top of that, 300 Igbo soldiers would come with whips and chains, and they would whip the owner of the drum and anybody else who was there. Well, the tortoise didn't realize this because the king didn't tell him. So he ran home, and he was so excited, and he ran to his family and said, "Woohoo, I'm a rich man now. I don't have to work any more in my life because I've got the king's magic drum." "How does it work?" the family asked. And he told them, "Well, all I have to do is beat it, and then food and drink will come." And so they said, "Hurry, hurry, we're hungry. Let's try it out." So he beat the drum just like he saw the king. And right before their very eyes, food appeared, as much food and drink as they wanted. For 3 days, that happened. And they started getting big and fat. Well, the tortoise got so proud that he wanted to show off for the entire kingdom. So he sent invitations out to everyone, including the animals again. And the people laughed at him when they received their invitation. "We're not going to the tortoises because we know he's a poor man." Well, only a few people came to the feast. And they had so much food, they told everybody, their friends and their family members, and said, boy, did you miss a great feast and a great time. The king even showed up. Well, the people who didn't go, they felt sorry. And from that day on, instead of regarding the tortoise as a poor man, they started regarding him as a rich man. And they decided that if he invited them to a feast next time, that they would show up. Well, the only person who knew about the source of the food was the king. 3 weeks went by, and the tortoise became lazier and lazier because all he was doing was beating on the drum and getting all the food. But his laziness brought him to drinking too much palm wine. And one day when he was drunk a lot of palm wine, he was coming home and he was so sleepy and he was staggering and stumbling. He didn't realize that there was a stick in the road. And he was so drunk he stumbled over the stick. And when he did that, the juju of the drum immediately was gone and broken. Okay? But nothing had happened because he didn't beat the drum yet. So he got home. His family had dinner, and when his family was gathered there for dinner, right before they had dinner, he beat the drum. And instead of having the wonderful feast that they were accustomed to, 300 Igbo soldiers showed up, and they took whips, and they beat his family. And it was really bad. Well, the tortoise thought to himself, wait a minute. Out of the goodness of my heart, I invite everybody in the kingdom to feast, and I get beaten for it? Oh no. If I have to deal with this fate, so does everybody else, because only a few people showed up to my feast. So he sent invitations out again, and this time people said, yes, we will come to the feast that the tortoise will have. But they did not know what Tortoise was planning to do after that drum was beaten. So at 3 o'clock the next day, everybody showed up. And Tortoise had already sent his family away so they would be in hiding. And this time when he beat the drum, Tortoise ran and hid under a bench, and he watched as 300 Igbo soldiers came again and took the whips and whipped the people for 2 hours. Well, the people were so mad at Tortoise, they started threatening him. And Tortoise had enough. He realized that he didn't want any harm to come to him or his family. So he said, I am going to take the drum back to the king tomorrow. The next day he brought the drum to the king and he said, O king, I am not pleased with the performance of this drum. Please let me exchange it for anything. I'll take money, I'll take servants, I'll even take clothing. But the king refused, because when the king offered him those things for his lost palm nut, Tortoise was greedy, and he did not accept what the king had to give him. So the king said, no, I will not exchange your drum for these items that you were requesting. But because I feel so badly for your family and you and what happened, I will give you this magic fufu tree. It will bring food to you and your family for the rest of your days. And so instead of being greedy this time, the tortoise gladly accepted the fufu tree in exchange for the drum. And he decided that he was going to remain content from then on.